Hello, I'm Linda Press Wolfe, and welcome to another episode of A Conversation With. This is a television program that's devoted to local artists, musicians, photographers, and performers in the film, television, and theater industry, most of whom live in and around Lewisboro. Today, I'll be talking with Chris Jasper, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee and a Lewisboro resident for almost 30 years. Chris was an integral member of the Isley Brothers during the 70s and 80s. He also received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the annual 2014 Grammy Awards. It's good to have you back since we last spoke in 2014.
Oh, yes, great being with you again.
Chris, as a classically trained musician and composer and the youngest of 7 siblings, you started studying classical music at the age of 7 at the urging of your mother. Mm-hmm. Did you ever consider pursuing a different course outside of R&B and instead study and perform classical music?
Yeah, well, like you said, I started with classical music. I learned a lot from my professor, the professor that taught me. I told him when I was 7 years old, I told him I wanted to be a composer. And he said, Chris, you're going to have to study a lot. You're going to have to learn how to, write for other instruments, orchestration, all of those things. And it's going to take a lot of time and study. And I said, well, I would like to learn. So he started to teach me a lot of things, a lot of the techniques composers would use. He taught me, how to analyze music. We were analyzing the music that I was learning. So that was like the beginning of my journey as a songwriter.
And of course, he taught you how to read music,
yes,
as well as probably expose you to a lot of different styles of music while you were under his instruction.
Yeah, he was, basically a classical instructor. Mm-hmm. So that's what I studied with him. Now, when I graduated high school, I went to Juilliard, and I was also studying classical composition there, atonal music, by the way. And but when I went to Long Island University, I got to study with Billy Taylor, a great jazz pianist. And I studied a lot of jazz too while I was studying the classical, mm-hmm. and R&B as well.
Going back to childhood, as one of 7, did any of your other siblings take a similar path into music or the entertainment industry?
No, they didn't actually. They fooled around with, playing a little bit, but I was the only one of the 7 that, really pursued music seriously. Mm. Yeah.
Now, Isley Brothers, they were one of the first and most popular R&B funk bands. Do you hear this style of music today in artists like Bruno Mars and, for example, his hit Uptown Funk, which has been described as a spirit akin to the 90s, 80s funk music era? Or would you say his style is pure hip-hop without any R&B influence?
Oh, no, he definitely has that old school, influence in there. And I like that. I like how he merges the two things together. I also like, the fact that Charlie Wilson, who was in the Gap Band, he has a lot of, hits now, and, his style of singing, reckons back to that time period, So I'm happy to see it when that's carried on, because I put a lot of that in my music,
I was always a big fan of R&B, so I'm glad to hear it in some of today's musicians and that contemporary sound. Now, many other artists have interpreted and performed the songs that you've written. Some of them include Whitney Houston, Notorious B.I.G., Queen Latifah, Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Will Smith, and others. Have one or more of these artists truly impressed you with their interpretation of your songs?
Yeah, in particular, I liked Whitney Houston's cover of For the Love of You, a song that I wrote, when I was with the Isley Brothers. Matter of fact, one of her records is up on the wall there, that album that she covered, For the Love of You. And there's a lot of different artists here in my studio that has covered songs. Will Smith, Usher, Biggie.
That's an impressive roster of other artists that have interpreted your songs. Had you met with any of them, either pre or post their performances, to have a conversation about the songs that you've written and their interpretation?
Well, actually, I believe what happened was they would sample a segment of the original song, and then they would go into the studio and either, put a rap to it, or in Whitney's case, they did do a whole cover. I didn't get to talk to her about that, but they kind of did it on their own, which is good, because I think when people cover your music or they sample it, it's saying that they really saw something in it that made them want to do their own creation, So I take that as a compliment when that happens.
Oh. Now, you've recorded 17 solo albums so far. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the 5 new albums you recorded since we last met, starting with Raise the Bar, your most recent. Raise the Bar has been described as true to the core of R&B, as well as a unique blend of faith, a tribute to family, romantic ballads, all with a little bit of funk. Mm-hmm. How would you describe this recent album, and what influenced the writing and recording?
Well, before I started recording it, I was thinking, in my personality, is I always try to do better than I did before, and that's kind of what Raise the Bar means, is try to increase on what you started with. And I just wanted each song to be a step above, maybe what I've done before. And that's what I was going for. And, in life, when you're self-examining yourself, always try to reach higher, because you'll find out some great things can happen that way. So it's kind of an album that encourages that, and in the lyrics of especially of Raise the Bar, the song itself, the title cut. So that's the concept I've had, when I started writing this album.
Now, Raise the Bar has some terrific tunes, and My Little Boy is one that I consider one of my favorites. And who does the background vocals on that cut?
Let's see, Margie and I, we decided to do a duo, and because I wrote the song for my son's wedding, for the mother and son dance for the wedding. But what happened after we recorded it, we said, hey, this is pretty good, we could probably put this on the next album, and that's what we did. And a lot of people identify with it. I was just doing an interview yesterday, and the first song the guy played was My Little Boy, because he has a daughter who just got married, and a lot of parents, feel that way about their kids, and we dedicated it to our 3 sons, because you always love them, no matter how old they are, you still have these memories, and that's what the song is talking about,
Well, it has a lot of heartfelt elements, and so does another favorite of mine on the same album, I Promise. Reviewers say that this will be a #1 ballad for wedding occasions. So did you have in mind marriage vows, relationships, commitments, as well as enduring love as you wrote this song, I Promise?
Yeah, actually, the second verse, talks about, dedicating, my love with this ring, and I was thinking about, marriage and, close relationships, and I do get that from people when they hear it, and they say, I want to use this for my wedding, So, yeah, I had that in mind. I didn't have it in mind on the first verse, but when I started writing the second verse, it came to me and said, yeah, this could be a good wedding song.
Now, there's another cut on the album that has a social message, a comment that you make on sort of society and how we are more alike than more different.
Right, and that's what I wanted to express, is that, you hear all the time about these little differences that we have all the time, and nobody ever talks about what we have in common, the common thread, that we have in this country, and I thought I would express it in a song, because most of the people that feel that way, you don't hear. You know, like I said, the second line is you won't hear us on the radio or on TV. You know, because you won't. Most of the people are not, you know, famous, or they're not celebrities, but they love the country, and I just wanted to express that in that song, and for people to come together, it's like a, you know, that's what it's talking about, people coming together in unity, and I think that's what we really need.
And the name of the song is
We Are the People, We Are the Nation.
Yeah, and that really in itself is a very positive
Yeah.
message. Now, what should we know about the other albums that you've recorded in these last few years?
Well, let's see. I'll have to check the wall here. There was right after the 2014 was the one, and then the Essential. That was a compilation of things from my solo career and from Isaac Jasper Isley, all songs that I wrote. And then Share With Me, Dance With You. Those are two more albums. For the Love of You was a cover album that I did some covers of songs that I did with the Isley Brothers, and then Sam Cooke, Marvin Gaye. You know, I did a lot of covers on that album. And then the last one, Raise the Bar. Those are the albums that I recorded since the last time we talked.
And Raise the Bar is all original material.
Yes, that's all original.
What influences the songs that you write and record today? And we talked a little bit about what influenced Raise the Bar, but how about some of the things that influenced the other albums that you've...
Well, generally, it's either, you know, my relationship with my wife. A lot of love songs are influenced that way. But then, you know, my relationship with God, you know, that inspires the spiritual songs, you know. And then sometimes I'm just inspired by what I'm seeing day to day, you know, like we just mentioned, you know, we are the people, we are the nation, you know, like things that going on in society sometimes inspire me to speak about it, you know. You know, songs come from a lot of different places. Sometimes I'll dream a song, you know. That happens occasionally.
And now, I think in all of your albums, you're true to your audience and what your fans want to hear. So there's elements in there that are really your style and your personality.
Right. And I found that people want to hear that. You know, they want to hear what I've done before. They appreciate that, and they want it to continue. And I think a lot of times, you know, artists will make the mistake of trying to jump on bandwagons, you know, and what's popular, and losing their identity, musical identity, you know. So I try to maintain my musical identity.
Yeah, well, your fans really appreciate that, and so do I, as one of them.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the awards, many awards that you've received. Most recently, you were inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in New York City on June 16th of this year. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, so much of an experience because they called me 2 weeks before the event and said I had to have all these boosters, which, you know, if you get one shot, you can't get a booster, and, you know, for like 6 months, you know, or something like that. So it was impossible for me to get all those things done. So I wasn't able to attend, and but I did receive the award, you know, later. It's sitting right over there, and that's a very important one to me. You know, being raised, you know, as a composer, and so many years of studying, and the Songwriters Hall of Fame is right there at the top, you know.
And that was just one of many awards you've received. You were also the recipient of the German's Critic Lifetime Achievement Award. And this is an organization that sets the most rigorous standards for supreme achievement and quality in the field of music recording. And you also received the National R&B Society Lifetime Achievement Award, as well as numerous other ASCAP and prestigious industry awards. Now, you mentioned the Songwriters Hall of Fame. This recent one was very meaningful. How about some of the others that stand out as also being meaningful to you?
Yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that's a very important one that stand out. The Grammy, you know, Lifetime Achievement Awards. all those type of awards, say that your music has made an impact, an important impact, and I'm so pleased that I'm part of that small society,
And the German's Critic Lifetime Achievement Award, that had really given you sort of international recognition.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the album that I pointed to first, that was the album that they chose to give that award, and that's all the music that comes through Germany, whatever genre, and they picked that album, and that was a very important. Actually, the guy came to New York to give it to me, to give me the award. He came to, we met at Lincoln Center, we talked and we took some photos, and he presented the award to me, and it was a very nice thing, to do.
And what a great backdrop, Lincoln Center, to be receiving this type of international award.
It was funny because Lincoln Center was the place where I attended music school for the first time. Juilliard.
Oh, Juilliard.
Juilliard is right there.
Of course.
And it was kind of cool being there receiving that award,
And what's so impressive and a great tribute to your music and your songwriting is that so many of these awards were lifetime achievement awards.
Yeah.
And that doesn't diminish the other ones, but certainly it points out and stands out to your great achievements in your career. As an accomplished songwriter and well-known songwriter, do you have any words of wisdom for songwriters that are starting out today?
Yes. Well, I think it helps when you can expose yourself to a lot of different music. Listen to everything. That's what I used to do when I was coming up. I used to listen to R&B. I listened to country. I listened to classical. I listened to jazz. I listened to as much music as I could, and what that did was it gave me a broader scope of what I could create, musically. I studied, like I said, I analyzed music. Even the stuff I heard when like Motown, say for example, their artists would come out with records. I would get their record, break it down, like who was playing what, and really analyzing music, and that really helps you as a songwriter when you can do that.
So for young people starting out today, it would seem that it would be in their best interest to have many experiences and exposure to a lot of different kinds of music.
Yes, a broad understanding.
What's next for you, Chris? Recordings, performances, new ventures?
Right now, I'm just going to promote this album. It just came out in June, so it's very new. But I'm always having ideas. I practice a lot, so no telling when I'll have the next album ready. But I do plan to do another album, and I have some ideas already.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about that. Now, you've been a Lewisboro resident for almost 30 years, and we're glad to have you as a neighbor. How do you like living here in this semi-rural environment?
I really like it. I used to live in Armonk, which is, like 20 minutes from here. And when I moved here, first of all, we like the house. The house has everything we wanted in it. But then, it's just a nice place to live. I mean, it's centrally located, but, between New England and Manhattan. You can get wherever you want to go in like maybe an hour or 2 hours. And we just like the quiet, the quiet area. I've always liked peace and quiet.
That must help. That must be a great help when you're doing writing. And
you can create. I like the quiet because I can create better too.
Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure to have you back on the program, and thank you for sharing your exciting career as a singer and a composer with our viewers. So until next time, this is Linda Press Wolfe for Lewisboro Cable Television.
Remembering the first time that I saw you and all the love that I felt inside. You were everything that I had hoped for.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.